Welcome to another episode of Otherworldly Encounters with Mike and Brian. Brian, we got a special guest today.
We do.
He was our first ever guest way back when we first started.
Episode 2, Travis Walton.
Yeah, he's a big believer in Travis Walton. Can't believe we brought him back.
Yeah. He suffered through a lot of harassment on this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But he also deserved it.
Right.
Monsters.
It's fair.
Don't even fucking say the name. Stupid ass show. Fuck you, Tyler.
Before we get into anything, I was thinking about this. UAP news this week. Drones over New Jersey and New York.
Oh, yeah.
Super interesting. Like it has been, and again, I don't know if I'm just pegged because my algorithms, all that, but it's like there's a lot of information and video coming out of these odd drones flying around the state.
Yeah, there really is. And it's been popping up on my social media as well. It's just like, was the videos you watched were they at night and you just kind of see like the orbs or lights or whatever that were swinging around? But they're saying that they're like the size of like a mid-size vehicle.
Yeah, and it's weird because they have like what would look like traditional drone lights, but they're emulating drones and making drone noises. I was like, well, it sounds like drones, but I don't know. Interesting anyway. Again, to like more people talking about the subject, I like it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. At least there's more volume.
Yeah. So let's get into our weapons of choice today, Brian, and then we'll get into our topic, what we're going to be discussing.
Sounds good. So I was up at Nocterra Brewery up in Powell, Ohio today. And today we're going to be drinking Northern Terminus, which is their premium lager.
Love it.
I like it.
All right, Brian, today with Tyler, we're going to dive into one of the most famous haunted locations in America. And being you're originally from down Cincinnati area, I believe you've heard of Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Yeah, so Kristen and I lived down there for like 8 years. We're from Northwest Ohio originally, but lived down in Cincinnati. And Bobby Mackey's came up a bunch because I was playing the music scene a little bit down in Cincinnati, and I'd heard it come up, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's the famous haunted bar."
Yeah, it's one of the most haunted nightclubs in America right now. This place has a history of demonic, dark legends, gruesome murders, and supernatural encounters.
Sounds like a standard bar and music venue.
I'd go there.
Yeah, obviously.
All right. Well, let's lay it on me. What are we talking about?
All right, guys. Thanks for having me again. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, let's try not to fuck this one up, right?
We'll do our best. And we're going to dive right into Bobby Mackey's.
Okay.
It's a place that's really been on my list for many years. It's always been interesting to me. So let's roll with it. So basically, Bobby Mackey's Music World is located down in Wilder, Kentucky. It's a popular honky-tonk bar, but it's not always cheerful. The site is originally a slaughterhouse in the 1850s, and then it kind of is well known for its basement. In the basement, they allege that it's the portal to hell.
Yeah, and I think that came from it being a slaughterhouse, and the basement had like a legitimate pit where they dispose of blood, guts, and the like with a little underground stream to carry everything away.
Yeah, and I think that was like when Ghost Adventures and some of the other paranormal groups have gone there. That's kind of been like the climax of their investigation was down there in that basement.
Yeah, and one of the very first big stories that came out of that particular location was Pearl Bryan. She was actually beheaded by two men, Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling, which they were eventually convicted for those murders, and her head was never found, and they think it was kind of involved in a cult.
Yeah, some kind of ritualistic behavior. Segue here is her boyfriend was in dental school in Cincinnati, and when my wife and I visited New Orleans forever ago, there was a famous house, and I don't remember the name of it, but American Horror Stories did a series about it where this dentist was killing people and then stashing them in the walls, and it was like super haunted because of that. So dentists, you got to watch out for them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I love a good cult right here. And you asked me last week on the last episode, is there a good cult? Well, I don't know. So far, we're 0 for 2.
We're 0 for 3, including Heaven's Gate.
Oh, that's right. So we're 0 for 3 on finding a good cult. But yeah, I mean, that's just really the tip of the iceberg, right, Tyler? I mean, this over the years, this property has been associated with numerous hauntings and dark energies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Over the years, many guests and employees have experienced many things from scratches to some physical attacks other than scratches, and even choked by unforeseen forces that you can't really debunk.
And and I also think that some of these entities have followed employees home too. So I guess that's a work hazard.
Yeah, again, I don't think I would want to work there.
I wouldn't want that part of it, but I would think it would be interesting to work there.
So the other,
yeah,
there's a couple other historical pieces I want to touch on before we jump forward into some of the things people are experiencing. So it was the slaughterhouse around the 1850s, closed in the 1890s. The Headless Pearl Bryan case you were talking about is 1896, but then it was closed and demolished in the early 20th century, and then reopened as a casino, nightclub, speakeasy in the 20s called the Primrose, and that ended up getting shut down because the mob was moving in and trying to strong arm the owner, so he shut it down. It then reopened in the 50s as a bar called the Latin Quarter, and this nightclub's owner's daughter fell in love with a singer, got pregnant. They wanted to run off. The nightclub owner was completely against it, forbid it, and went so far as to have the mob then kill the singer. So in retaliation, the daughter poisoned her dad, killing him, and then she took her own life in the basement of the building.
Just another night at Bobby Mackey's.
Well, and then Bobby Mackey, opened it up in 1978 after all that business. Or it actually closed in 1978 because they had a series of fatal shootings. So like pretty rough environment. And then Bobby Mackey bought it.
Can you imagine that being there in the casino, right? You're just down on your luck, the casino's just kicking your ass, and then you're getting fucked with by some spirit.
Yeah, just to rub it in.
just to rub it in.
That'd be a horrible night.
Not great.
Well, that would have been like Prohibition era too, right? So you're talking everything
20s.
was illegal then.
Right.
So, but Bobby Mackey himself, he didn't believe in any of the hauntings, right, Tyler?
No, he was pretty much a skeptic. He said there might have been something there that he couldn't explain, but it was more so his wife. She actually had one instance where she was pushed down the stairs and she was told to get out. They didn't want her there, so
I'm okay with if you want to like knock something off a shelf, if you want to make a noise or whatever, I'm okay with that type. But once it gets into like the physical part,
Pushing you down the stairs.
downstairs, I'm not okay with that part of it.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes. But she also did. Who experienced the jukebox incident? Was it his wife or was this just staff members?
I think it was just staff members, like bartenders when they went to close up. They would have incidents where they'd completely unplug it and it would still be going off, playing some music. Just wild.
Do you know what the music was that it was playing, Brian?
Yeah, it was like Endless Waltz.
Endless Waltz.
Nice. I wonder what the significance is of that song, though.
I don't know that I know it. I'm sure I'd probably have heard it if I listened to it, but I don't know.
Well, I don't want to play it because it's probably like the calling. It's like some probably dark entity calling.
Bring it here.
Yeah,
let's do it while we're in your garage, not mine.
No. We'll do it. We'll test it when we're in yours.
Yeah.
This is ghost free over here. We're okay. I mean, I like the spiritual world, like the paranormal, whatever. But
Arm's distance.
Exactly. I like looking from afar.
Yeah.
So Tyler, let's just start talking about Carl Lawson. So Carl Lawson, if I remember correctly, was kind of like the innkeeper or just like the everyday employee, right?
Yes. So the instance with Carl Lawson is that basically he was a caretaker, but he felt that he was tormented all the time by these spirits to the point where he was actually possibly possessed.
And he underwent an exorcism, correct?
Yes, for that for that possession, he actually went under an exorcism. They brought a priest in, and I think we have some video on that.
Well, before we get into the video, did the exorcism work? Because there's always those naysayers out there that say,
Yeah, he claimed that it did. He claimed that he felt better after the exorcism and that he felt relieved. But, I mean, there were still experiences that he would have at the location, but he wouldn't actually feel like it was him.
Okay.
At that point.
All right. Yeah. We'll play just a little snippet of the exorcism, and then we'll just maybe chat about that for a little bit, and then kind of go from there. How's that sound?
Sure.
All right.
Because he knows that I've got something in me that's greater than him. And I've got something in me that's greater than you, Charlie.
This guy totally looks
You
like Bubbles from
understand
Trailer
that?
Park Boys, doesn't he?
Yeah, I assure you guys we're not showing you a snippet from that.
You understand that? Huh? Oh, no. No.
Carl's fighting.
No.
Are they holding hands?
That silly little son
Yeah.
of a bitch.
You
Looks
listen
like
to me.
That silly little son of a bitchy Carl.
No.
Is fighting.
Carl is not that. Carl's a good person. Now, it's time for you to leave.
I try to keep him away. I try to keep him away from church.
Well.
Ever since he was a little kid, all he wanted to do was go to school and pray. That's all he ever wanted to do. But I got him riding around here on his bicycle one day, and he didn't know
Don't
what
ride
happened
bikes,
to him when
kids.
He found his
Yeah.
$5 in the back.
I know he didn't know what happened to
$5,
him,
what's
but
that?
you did. And he entertained you. And now then you're trying to take him over and you're trying to rule his life. And I'm here to put a stop to it. You understand that? You understand that, Charlie?
Carl's so fucking stupid.
You understand that, Charlie?
That's a good place. Carl's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
The demonic entity using foul language. Would have never thought that.
Yeah. I don't know. It looks like a skit out of Trailer Park Boys.
It might be. No. It really does look like Bubbles, though.
I don't know.
So this dude's like a bar back at Bobby Mackey's. That's what this guy is, Carl Lawson.
Yeah, and it says he lived on the premises too. So I don't know.
Oh, so it has like an upstairs bedroom or
Yeah,
something?
I believe he had an apartment upstairs. That, and if I remember correctly, it actually, the chick you were talking about earlier, who dated the singer, and his dad had the mob kill him, and then she killed her father, and then she killed herself or whatever. I think it was her room that he initially, like, what he stays in, if I remember correctly, from some of the other paranormal shows that I've watched.
Huh.
So a lot of dark energy up there regardless, and then he goes up there to, get free room and board, and all he has to do is go carry a few kegs every once in a while, whatnot, and next thing you know,
and
he's
deal with this, the
now he-
extracurricular.
now he's dealing with
Now
this.
he's got to talk to Bubbles and get it out.
we'll call the spirit that he's possessed by Bubbles. That's what we'll do moving forward.
Lighten the mood.
So Tyler, other than obviously the being possessed, there was obviously EVPs, and is this place known for like shadow figures and stuff like that too, or is it just demonic or detached voices and all that jazz?
Yeah, it's definitely known for all that. EVPs are common. You've had investigation crews go there, like Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures, and several other ones have went and experienced things that they just can't explain. So it's well known for shadow figures and EVPs, and even people being scratched.
So do you think that when it comes to why there's so much activity at this one place, do you believe it's just because of the history of it that makes it such a hotbed?
I think so. I think an energy source just kind of brews itself. You think about all those terrible things that have happened since 1890s?
Well, and the maybe satanic, ritualistic,
Yeah, that too. That place
whatever.
just kind of opens that gateway.
Damn cults, man.
It is interesting from the energy perspective because we haven't really talked that much paranormal. I know it's always like, we always talk about the big three things. And the piece about energy doesn't really fit into those, but it's like, if it's true that energy can't be created or destroyed, if you suffer a traumatic incident, does that just capture it and hold it in that spot instead of like dissipating or something? Or why does it take this haunted building that's had whatever occur to house that energy? And then on the flip side, why don't we have the same in like a wedding venue? If a wedding venue closed down, it's always like happy times. Why aren't those haunted but with happy ghosts? Why is it always a negative side?
Well, maybe there are spirits there, but again, I think if you, to your point when you're talking about energy, right? So if you died a traumatic death, I mean, I think that you really wouldn't be, your spirit may not be at rest, right? So you're just, maybe it's just like the angry side because you're like, you know, your life was tragically taken. It wasn't like a natural causes. It wasn't a car accident, something like that. But then if you maybe had a heart attack at a wedding and your spirit was still stuck there, it was still kind of a happy place. And maybe you just kind of relive that. I don't know.
I don't know either. That's just an interesting, slight segue here. You remember the movie The Sixth Sense, where the little kid, it's Bruce Willis, and he's dead, and
I see dead people.
Yeah, the whole movie, you're like, is this guy alive? I remember showing that to my mom. Within the first 5 minutes, she's like, Bruce Willis is dead, isn't he? And I just turned the movie out. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
wow. It took me the whole movie to figure that shit out.
Same thing. Like within 5 minutes, it was just on top of it. And I was like, well, fuck, that kind of ruins the whole movie now.
I actually
go to your room, Mom.
I remember being at the drive-in years and years ago when that first came out, and then you could hear everyone in their cars. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like they had no idea like that he was actually dead.
Yeah. I don't know. Just the whole thing around energy and why spirits cluster where they do is kind of interesting, and all of because like when we're talking about EVPs and electromagnetic phenomena, we're measuring something physical. So even though we can't see it, smell it, hear it, at least sometimes. Although I think one of the cases for this place, what is it? Bobby Mackey's wife or something smells roses in the basement or something from one of the people that got killed or killed herself. I don't remember.
Well, there's people who smell like perfumes, right? But then when it comes to demonic, like the smell of sulfur, rotten egg, that type of thing is, typically associated with some type of demonic entity in that general location.
Now, I guess it's a little off topic, but do you think they probably had some issues with getting certain musicians in there that were probably like, yeah, I'm not playing there?
I think they'd probably be like, fuck yeah, let me play there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be like something that would get people in there. I mean, they obviously have a packed house. People, the whole haunted thing doesn't deter people from going, and I think it's more of a curiosity thing. I think it's actually a pretty good business plan. You should write that in your business plan.
Well, they always say there's no such thing as negative publicity, because if you're out there, people want to see it and experience it for good or bad. So you're upping the numbers regardless. So
now I would say though, like if I was the bartender and I had to close, I'd be like, I need everybody to stay. Everyone grab a broom. We're gonna knock this shit out together. We're all leaving at the same time. Yeah, that would be the part that would probably freak me out a little bit. Is, I can talk a big game, like, because I do like the paranormal stuff. But I guess if I was...
You're 3 a.m., right? Bar's probably closing at 2. You're hoping to get out of there by 3.
That would freak you the fuck out. It really would. Because, I mean, when you're working in those type of establishments anyways, you're worried about someone coming in and robbing you while you're cleaning at night, because you're most vulnerable. You're not paying attention. You may have forgot to lock a door or whatever. But if you locked yourself in and all of a sudden you start hearing like footsteps, right, on the floor, or you hear something fall down and you go and investigate, there's nothing there, but there's something broke. I mean, that right there, I mean, it make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully you got a really good night in tips to make it worthwhile.
That's what I was thinking. Gotta be.
You get the one old guy that comes to the bar, like, you know what, you treated me good. Here's a penny.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
$1. I was here 4 hours.
So have either one of you done bartending? Have you ever bartended?
A little bit, yeah.
So I had this one guy, super, super cool dude. We talked for hours, right? And he's like, hey, man, like, he didn't say man. He was like, son, I really appreciate our conversations. You treated me right tonight. Go take your lady out for something nice. Literally fucking 75 cents.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Where'd you take your lady?
Yeah. How did you spend the funds, man?
Fucking gumball machine.
Right.
Babe, I'll let you have 1 3/4.
Right.
Take your luck on the old gumball machine.
Right.
No, I mean, you have those people out there, right? Like, they go, I mean, I don't know. But throwing in the whole paranormal thing on top of that, they would have to pay their bartenders probably more than the average to endure that.
I wouldn't think so, because if they're packed, they're making killer tips.
No,
If it is
not
packed, I don't know
necessarily.
how big this place is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking like the bar backs would be a little creepy too, because you're probably going down that basement, loading up some more beer, taking it up there.
I would just think like if you worked in the kitchen, how creepy that would fucking be, right? Because now you're in a small space with maybe 1 or 2 people. At least if you're out in the bar, you're with X amount of people. If the bar's packed, say let's just say 50 people in there plus you, maybe another bartender. That right there, I think would just that would make me forget the paranormal shit that happenings that go on there. But so whatever happened with Carl? Did he? So we watched that little snippet of his exorcism. Did he ever recover? Did he what?
The word is that he recovered. He felt completely enlightened after this Trailer Park Boys exorcism here. So we just didn't have Ricky or Julian in there,
Right.
But
Pastor Bubbles is all over it.
but yeah, he was good to go after that, I guess, and he ended up, I think, leaving in the early '90s.
But when did he pass? He passed away.
Did he?
When did he pass away? Because if I remember correctly,
like 2012, I think.
because when Ghost Adventures went there the first time, he was still alive. But then they went back again several years later, and Carl had passed. And if I remember correctly, they actually had some EVPs of Carl captured. So he really never left.
Well, he had so much put into the place. I mean, I guess he
God,
can make
can you think about? All right, let's just think about that for a second, man. Like, you've put so much of yourself into your place of employment that when you died,
Fuck that.
that's where your spirit went.
Let me tell you something. Anybody that has a job, there are very few people out there that I know that absolutely love what they do. Teachers are one of the few who absolutely just love it. Most people have a job because they have a family or themselves to pay for and take care of, and it's just a means to get there. But if that is how you live, that's like legit clinical depression. If you think of the same thing all the time and that's where the only place your brain spends its time, like you're going to go crazy. You're going to fucking end up talking to Pastor Bubbles.
Would that be considered hell?
I would say so.
or a portal.
Yeah, forget about the paranormal. That's just hell by itself.
Yeah, I mean, well, he already lived there and he worked there, so he was there all the time as it was.
So mix in all the people. And that's the other interesting part about this too, is and I'm sure Carl, it would be interesting to know what Carl knew prior to going in terms of like how haunted it was and what the history was. And if Carl had a history of mental psychosis of some kind, and he's living there, working there, everyone's always asking, hey, is this really haunted? Did he really push himself into, I think I'm, taken over by whatever ghost and need exorcised?
I guess it would be, yeah, I mean, that is a good point, because you just kind of like will it upon yourself.
Right. Because that's all you think, live, eat, breathe. That's all you do.
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. Fucking knocked all of our lights off. Jesus. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't know. I wish that there's some of these, like, you could talk to some of these bands that may have performed there to see if they had any type of negative or positive experience while they're there. Just to find out, like, is it secluded to when the place closes and it's only with staff, or does it happen when there are patrons there? That was like, so is it if you have strength in numbers type thing? So if there's a lot of people there, they really don't piss with anybody. But if it's just you and I at the bar there with the bartender, next thing you know, we're getting scratched and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That'd be a good question.
I don't know. If you go in, if you have, even in a mass group of people, if you all go in with a preconceived notion that there may be a haunting, do you see something because you're making yourself see it? Versus like a unexplained, unexpected occurrence, I feel like would be totally different versus I'm going here with the expectation I might see something. And so like if you see something out of the corner of your eye, you know what I mean? You're in like a hyper state of awareness.
Well, I don't know, because in my previous life, we went to an establishment that was known to be one of the most haunted places in Ohio. And so when we went there for this alarm drop, it was 3 a.m. I was expecting to come in because it was known for shadow figures, disembodied voices, etc. Right. So I took my voice recorder with me because it happened the same night, same time, pretty much every night. We went all the way up to the attic. We set up in the attic in complete darkness. We walked the place. You know, I asked questions, just try nothing. So I don't know because, like I say, I went there knowing that this place was haunted, and I wanted to see something. I wanted to hear something, and it just never happened.
But don't you feel like your aptitude to experience something is higher because you went in wanting to see something or experience something versus if it was just an alarm drop or whatever the scenario is and you went to clear it out, you would have been on high alert for criminals, but not necessarily something like little creaks and squeaks and whatever that may be associated with paranormal things.
Well, I mean, when you're doing that, I mean, the creaks and stuff like that, you'd be heightened to just because.
Yeah, it could be a person.
It could be a person, right?
Sure.
But there was none of that. It was dead silence, and I was just like, how in the hell is this place supposed to be like one of the top haunted places in Ohio? And you would think like you would be seeing it would be so active to get that title.
How long did you think you spent in there, dude? A couple hours, like 10 minutes? You know?
No, I mean, we couldn't be in there that long. I mean, we were in there for a good 30 minutes, but you would think again, you know, sitting, like we even separated thinking, okay, well, strength in numbers, let's separate. So me and 2 other guys, like we went to different rooms and fucking hung out. None of us experienced anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Paranormal world's weird, but I will tell you though, when I first like really started getting into the paranormal stuff, actually Ghost Adventures is what really got me into it. I remember when I first started watching it, dude, it would make my hair on my arm stand up, you know, especially when they had like captured something significant. Now it's just kind of,
I never got into Ghost Adventures. I never liked the lead dude. He just always seemed too over the top. But I did used to watch TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, and I enjoyed that for a while. But then it became overproduced for me.
But is that the one though that they got caught in a scandal because they were making shit up? Like
they had a situation at the Stanley Hotel where they filmed The Shining. And they had a voice on the show, and very clear, hello. And it ended up being one of the staff. They were down in the basement. One of the staff fucked with them and yelled down one of the vents, and that was the hello. It wasn't a spirit.
Yeah, but there was one episode that I thought it was Taps. Might have been a different one, but he said like something like grabbed his collar, and then if you like slowed everything down, you can kind of see like a piece of fishing line that kind of just pulled it.
Oh, yeah.
But again, that's like, okay, so that gets into the part that we talk about with like the UAP UFO, you know, like what's real, what's not real. And it only takes a few bad apples to really
90% bullshit.
Sour the whole thing.
Yeah. So, you know, you got people who are watching these paranormal shows and they're really, believe that there are these spirits on the other side, but then you have people that are going there and make a mockery of it. And that's the part that, again, it pisses me off on both sides, whether it's for alien, UFO, UAP, or paranormal.
What would it take you to be convinced? So like we've talked about the UAP, UFO, like I want tangible evidence, like put a piece of a UFO in my hand. Let me physically see an alien body, like something beyond video that you can manipulate. What is that same thing, but in the reference of paranormal? Like what would be definitive?
Well, I've already told you. Remember, we recorded our podcast. I went home that night and I was standing in my actual garage and I was just flipping through my phone and I felt like I was being watched. And I just happened to look over and there was a fucking shadow figure standing there. And I'm like, what the fuck? Right? And I'm like looking and it just went away and just looking. And I was like, God, it's still here. And then I just happened to look over and it was back in the further corner of my garage. So like that personal experience to me obviously makes me a believer that there is some type of.
So you don't need tangible evidence beyond this shadow figure that you saw.
Well, I mean, I've had other incidents too.
Like seeing and hearing things, but like, is there anything physical, tangible that would be like
I've never
proof?
had anything happen to me, but they do say like if you get scratched, like 3 scratches is a demonic. You're being you've been touched by a demonic entity. Like for some reason, like 3 knocks and 3 scratches is symbolic to like the demonic.
I think my brain's just not wired to work this way. So if I had 3 scratches on my arm, you said, hey, this is demonic, I would want to like swab my arm and run like a DNA analysis to be like, what the fuck just hit my arm? And see, was this a piece of wood or is this, Satan's spawn lurking
like,
in, you know what I mean?
Like, I get exactly what you're saying. It would be one of those things like the 3 of us sitting here right now, right? All of a sudden your arm just starts burning for no reason. You have, your arms are right here. You can see our hands, but your arms just burning. Like, what
probably
the
having
fuck?
a heart attack.
And you lifted up your sleeve and you had 3 like superficial scratches going down your arm.
Yeah.
That's what most people experience. It could be on your neck, back, whatever. I think it's that Baggins from Ghostface, but those were like fucking prompt, like
right down the center of his back, and it was at Bobby Mackey's where he had
Interesting.
and it wasn't like a superficial, like that was like claw marks. So I mean, again, that's your own personal opinion and whether you think that's real or fake or whatnot. But
The shows are hard because they're produced, right?
exactly, and that's the thing too. You get into those type of shows and you're really wanting to. I mean, you want to be entertained, right? But you're also looking at it as, is this shit actually real?
For sure.
And that they cut, and because I mean, if you're going out and you're investigating paranormal stuff, you're going out in the middle of the night, and you could be out there for 8 hours, but then they got to take that 8 hours of production or whatever video and take it down into a 30-minute hour, an hour time slot type thing, right? So you really don't know what you're missing, or I don't know. Are they only giving you, like in that 8 hours they had one piece of evidence and everything else is just dramatized just to keep your interest? I don't know.
I guess I kind of wonder too, what causes an area like that to have repetitive tragedies over and over again? I mean, why does it have to be there and it can't be?
Oh, you're talking about just
in general,
one location having like multiple
the
tragic
geographic location.
Well, I mean, there's, if you like, you said there was a well under it, right? So there are in the paranormal world, like if there's
Well, that wasn't a well. It was just like a pit that the slaughterhouse threw off-spec shit in, blood and guts.
Yeah, but I believe it was a pit, but I believe it was some type of a well as well.
It did have a river running through the bottom.
As well. Yeah, but they also say like spring water, some type of stone or rock is associated with paranormal activity, which is right up your alley. You should learn that in your college.
No.
No courses on
Just Skinwalker Ranch. I'll debunk them getting all jacked up, but I don't know anything about spring water and paranormal. I'm not sure the correlation there.
Well, there's certain like rock. Do you remember what it is? Whether it's limestone,
limestone, I think.
Limestone of some has some type of
Activity.
Produces some type of energy or whatnot that goes with paranormal world.
Yeah, I didn't get taught that in geology classes. I must have skipped that class.
That's because you went to
I screwed up. I screwed up.
That was underneath Skinwalker Ranch, right?
Limestone?
Isn't that what they said? Something along those lines.
I don't know. The Skinwalker Ranch isn't limestone. That's all metamorphic and igneous rocks.
All I
Limestone's
know
ocean sediment.
is Bowling Green needs to step up their fucking game when it comes to geology school.
Boy, this fucking guy.
No kidding.
Bowling Green sent me to Antarctica. What are you talking about?
It's probably because they're trying to kill you.
Probably like, get this guy the fuck out of here. What's the furthest point we can send him? Antarctica. Got it. Adios, amigo.
Like, this guy is a horrible student, so we're going to teach him. We're going to send him out here. Here's your extra thin socks, your windbreaker gloves.
Right.
T-shirt, shorts. That's it.
Right. Right.
So, Brian, how you feeling about Bobby Mackey's? Do you think it's legit? Do you think it's just a bunch of BS?
I don't know. Tyler, you were talking about it. It is interesting when you talk about a geographic location. Like, so if you like step back a level, and I like what you're talking about. So we have all these instances. We have the beheaded Pearl Bryan. We've got the pregnant girlfriend whose boyfriend's killed. She kills the father, kills herself. So it's like this traumatic incident time and time again. So is something about the location causing the traumatic incident, I think is what you're kind of getting after. And is it a geographical thing, or is it because of this ritualistic satanic cult behavior being performed there? So it is this, and the fun term down there is the gateway to hell for the, the sump in the basement or whatever, the pit. So is that actually drawing something to it? I don't believe anything about geographic nature of places. I don't think that makes sense. I will say, like, Gettysburg, I always hear is one of the most haunted places. And I've seen some pretty wild videos online from early 90s, like pre-AI, where you're like, holy shit, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
So again, a place of a bunch of trauma, tragedy, whatever. What is it about that area that keeps people there? And so maybe it's not so much the geographic location, it's these, just unfortunate incidents back to back that have kept people there. And then the lore of the place drives other people who maybe have a screw loose or are more susceptible to, I don't know, being taken over, if that's a real thing. Like our buddy Carl Lawson and Bubbles here, maybe he just got sucked into it because of the history and lore. So it's just self-perpetuating because the folklore behind it goes down through time.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, like, we've talked before about dimensions, right?
Fifth dimension with our buddy Amy last week.
Well, obviously
3D, 5D.
Obviously, Carl's was not in the fifth dimension, because the fifth dimension is just part of love.
Right.
Right. So he's definitely in the 3D world.
3D world.
But if you think about spirit wise, obviously we're in our presence currently, right? So when you pass, your spirit goes somewhere. Does it go to a different dimension? So we want to break it into heaven and hell, right? But what if there's just different dimensions in which when you pass, you go, and that's what, from our current state, that's what we're tapping into when we go out and we're doing these investigations. Is there a demonic side and like a non-demonic side that kind of, like, maybe they cross over somewhere? Mm-hmm. So like maybe like this place here, like Carl, from my understanding from just watching some of the documentaries, he never really did anything wrong that we know of, right? He wasn't involved in any of these killings or anything like that.
They just like to bully him.
But how is he stuck there?
Well, and
is that his hell though? Like he's being bullied by the other side, and so now he's stuck there until he can figure it out.
But that's the thing we don't know is, like, what's Carl's history? It would be nice to know, like, what kind of household was Carl raised in? What kind of jobs did Carl hold down prior to working at Bobby Mackey's? Did Carl ever end up in jail for whatever, disorderly conduct and drug use, and a couple things that have maybe knocked Carl's psyche down to where he's, again, more susceptible to this kind of self-perpetuating lore of Bobby Mackey's and the tragedy and tribulations associated with it. So did Carl self-fulfill his own prophecy?
They did say that he did go over a mental evaluation at one point for being schizophrenic or something along those lines. But
yeah,
before or after his
so
before he was possessed.
Before he was possessed.
But what led to that?
That I don't know. I don't know if it was just the torturing and the stuff he was hearing.
Oh, okay. So he went through that because of
he was hearing things.
Okay, it wasn't just because this dude's off his fucking rocker. We need to send him to some.
Yeah,
to be evaluated.
My take on this is I don't know. Bobby Mackey's has obviously been a place of several tragedies, and I think I probably buy that people smell like a rose perfume from whoever it was, either Pearl Bryan or the daughter that killed the father, one of the two. And I'm sure maybe you see some apparitions and things might turn on. But I don't know, for me personally, at least watching the whatever minute of Carl Lawson's exorcism, that I really believe Carl Lawson. I think Carl Lawson probably has some unfortunate mental health and was put in a situation that perpetuated kind of the negative aspects of that mental health and led to him thinking he's being possessed when in really he's probably having a psychotic breakdown or a split personalities or whatever the situation may be. But I don't think that was Bobby Mackey's result outside of probably the folklore that kind of surrounds it.
So you're saying Carl's full of shit?
Yeah, I think Carl's full of shit.
But don't forget his strong vocabulary either. He's got a very strong vocabulary from what we just seen right there.
That is true. Yeah. So Bobby Mackey's, it would be cool to go. I don't know where Wilder, Kentucky is. I remember hearing about it. I'm just assuming geographically it's close to Cincinnati because I'd heard it, but maybe more just because it's famous. I don't know.
Well, I think it's 2 hours from here, right, Tyler? We'll
Yeah,
look it up.
actually.
Oh, so it's
by-
right outside of
yeah,
Cincinnati
right,
then.
right down 71. I remember, I think, when you get in that Kentucky borderline, you can go to, they usually have liquor stores right across the border,
Right.
where you can get stuff that you can't necessarily get in Ohio at the time.
Shout out Party Source Newport.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Free advertisement.
so I was just cruising down through there, and I actually went by it. I didn't go in. I wish I would have, but yeah. So it's not too far from the borderline.
Tell you what, one of these Bengals night games, I'm going to have to add that to the docket of things to go. Go run across the river and see if I can't catch a show at Bobby Mackey's.
If you come back possessed, I'm like, bitch, you did this to yourself.
Right.
We'll get.
And I'm gonna get Bubbles in here, and we're gonna live stream that shit.
I'm telling you what, I think that'd make a hell of a Trailer Park Boys episode. If those guys tried to perform an exorcism on someone, I could just see it.
Are any of them Catholic?
I don't know.
You can only be Catholic.
Well, Bubbles is apparently Catholic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the Catholics are the only ones that can do exorcisms.
This must be what he did before Trailer Park Boys.
Isn't that a fascinating thing that you just said? Catholics can only do exorcisms.
Yeah, they actually have a
Yeah.
whole book on it, and
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where that started.
It's interesting, and we've talked about religion so many times in this show, but when you think about all the different varieties of religion out there, from Catholic to Lutheran to Mormon to Amish to Hindu to all these different things, and it's like, why do the Catholics, and they actually teach exorcism, right? Like that's a taught course.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would think even with something like, not to be too religious, but like Protestant, is so close to the Catholic Church, but minus a few dealings with marriage and stuff like that. Why wouldn't they be able to perform exorcisms? I mean, you're right, though. It's kind of crazy.
okay, so Catholics are not the only ones who can perform exorcisms, but the Catholic Church has a specific guidance for who can perform them.
Okay.
So that was my bad.
I mean, it's interesting. And going back to our old buddy Bob Lazar on the UFO side, talking about humans being vessels for souls.
So a priest must have the express permission of the local bishop to perform an exorcism. The bishop can delegate his authority to a priest or appoint a priest to be the go-to person for exorcisms in qualifications. A priest must be knowledgeable and prudent and have integrity of life.
Boy, if that will fucking get you a job in today's day and age, I'm going to add that to my resume. I am prudent at life.
That is a job I don't want. I don't want to be somebody performing.
Actually, can you imagine that? What a shitty job. Like straight up Constantine, but like without hopefully the trips to hell and what have you. But like that would be a brutal, brutal job to have and do.
Oof.
Yeah, pass.
So exorcism is a sacramental in the Catholic Church, but is not a sacrament like baptism or confession. The Catholic Church defines exorcism as when the church asks in the name of Jesus Christ to protect the person or object from power of the evil one. So there you go.
Don't they have a certain count? I mean, I think they keep track of that. I don't think it's a very high number of actually exorcisms that have been performed.
I don't know, man. Like that's outside of my wheelhouse when it comes to religion. When it comes, I always thought that it was, or I'd heard or read it somewhere that only Catholic priests could do exorcisms. Like they had like certain guidelines that they followed. They had a special exorcism book. Yada yada yada.
Don't know. I don't know anyone that's had one performed on them, been associated with it, or know anyone that knows anyone that's been associated with it. So,
Well, I mean, that'd be a good question for our viewers, listeners here is, if you've known anyone that's been through an exorcism, or maybe yourself.
Would you
or
say been exercised, past tense?
better than circumcised?
I don't know. If you've had an exorcism performed, are you someone that's been exorcised? That's a fun vocabulary.
We could ask Bubbles.
Yes, we could.
That's Bubbles.
We could.
Well, Tyler, I really appreciate you coming in today. It was fun having you on, as always. I'm glad we didn't talk about the other bullshit that you like, but it's all good.
Yeah, we'll have to leave that for another time.
There will be no other time for that.
Yeah. No.
I refuse. Brian and I refuse to give them any type of
We've talked
credibility
at
or
length
credence.
about it, and I refuse.
Yeah. At one point, like I was teetering on your side where I was like, you know what, Brian, that would be fun to talk about, just to fucking bash these stupid asses.
we
But
just
then it was
brought
like,
them along?
It's
By the
any
time we
public
do that-
any publicity is publicity, negative or
yeah,
good.
That is true. So it was like, yeah,
No.
Brian talked me out of it. So.
It's you know what it is? It's we always talk about it, the 90% bullshit, the 10% reality. If you push the 90% bullshit, you just push a bad narrative out there. I'd rather focus on the things that at least have a chance at being true.
No,
Some of those
I agree with
drops
that.
they make and all that stuff too. I mean, they get pretty creative with it.
Let's not fuck you, Tyler. We're not talking about it. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe. Send us any of your personal experiences to otherworldlyencounters2024@gmail.com. We have Instagram and Facebook. You can DM us on either one of those as well.
If you have been exercised, we want to know about it. And did a Catholic priest do it?
Yeah. I mean, and what's the circumstances around it?
Like, I laugh and we kind of joke at it, but I would be fascinated to hear from someone that's had a firsthand experience, because I'm sure sitting in the room, just like you were talking about the shadow figure in your garage, firsthand experience lends a whole nother level of credibility to the whole thing. So like, if you've experienced that or know someone that has, it would be really interesting to talk this story, because even though I'm kind of like poking fun at it, if you really went through it and that's legit, and you have some like audio or video or some very, and again, I guess going back to like what's real and what isn't, and what do you need to prove tangible evidence? Like, did somebody write something before and after? Like, I would just be interested to hear the story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree 100%. It's almost like when I was talking about last week with anybody that might have been involved in a cult. Like, how did that happen? Like, what was your experiences?
Right.
Like, what led you
What
down that
circumstance?
path? Yeah. So that as well.
That's a good call out. Background is important in both of these.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're not here to, I mean, we make fun of some stuff, take, whatever, but we truly are very curious individuals. And I would love to get down in the weeds on some of these things, especially with, like today, with a priest who's exorcising someone.
That looks like Bubbles.
No, looks like Bubbles. Dude, if we can find a priest that looks like Bubbles, then he's like a trained exorcist or whatever.
We're bringing him to your garage, not mine.
No, we're taking neutral.
Yep.
We'll go
Sorry,
somewhere
I
neutral.
said it first.
We'll go something neutral. But again, thank you for everyone for listening and watching and putting up with our dumbasses. It's been how many episodes now, Brian?
This is number 25 tonight.
Fucking cooking along.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, thank you all for watching, listening, like and share. And until next time, keep your mind open, your eyes on the sky. You never know what's going to fly by.
and with that, we'll catch you on the next one.